discussing a paper that was published by Meta about 3 months ago. It's multi-token prediction. They just made some news because they launched a model, open source, that helps do that. And I think it's a very interesting concept. What multi-token prediction means, in fact, it's exactly what it says. You have a model which is trained in such a way that it optimizes for several token prediction at once. So it's not the next token prediction like the traditional transformer architecture that goes back to the 2017 Attention's All You Need paper. What the people at Meta did is they tweaked the model in training to be optimized for multi-token prediction. What that means then, of course, in inference time, you have an architecture that is able to predict several tokens in advance. The paper discusses the pros and cons. The paper comes up with some experimental studies that show that in particular when it comes to algorithmic reasoning and coding interpretations and those sort of things that large language models could be used for, that multi-token prediction works really well. Now, why are we interested in this at Orange Capital Partners? I think beyond the general interest in what's happening in the industry, I think this is, there's three really interesting things. I mean, one is, of course, every time a paradigm gets questioned, in this case, the next token prediction versus multi-token prediction, I think one should listen, right? I mean, this is interesting no matter what. Second, in our opinion, multi-token prediction really is the key to better and faster inference, because you just save yourself a lot of, you save yourself much more compute time. Now, in this paper, they talk about 3x faster inference, but of course, this is just the beginning. I'm going to discuss in the main part of the episode a little bit sort of the trade-offs here, because this is like most of machine learning models. This is all a game of optimizing, let's say, the tokenizer versus optimizing the n, which is how many tokens do you want to predict. So there's some sort of Pareto optimality that you need to find, and therefore you could then also Pareto optimize against inference time, or to go back to our initial idea of tokens per dollar or solutions per dollar, which is really what matters the most. But if you take tokens per dollar, of course, if you can do more tokens in one inference epoch, then you can reduce tokens per dollar substantially. The third thing is sort of the interpretation of this whole thing, and the idea of why is this actually working. I think, interestingly, just the history of this paper, it came out of Meta. Meta is the FAIR, which is the sort of Facebook artificial intelligence research, is run by Jan LeCun. Jan LeCun has made his name with convolutional neural nets. Convolutional neural nets are state-space models that take advantage of symmetries and that are really good at capturing images, in the sense that they can focus on what changes in an image, and they don't necessarily waste a lot of resources on pixel per pixel. So I think there's a bit of a history here and an understanding coming probably from Jan LeCun himself, that you could potentially do the same thing with multi-token prediction. So if you have a robot, for example, going from on a road, on an empty road, towards a tree, then that tree is relevant, and anything between the robot and the tree is irrelevant. And convolutional neural nets can capture that with symmetry, and multi-token prediction potentially can capture that too. You could imagine down the line, when this multi-token prediction has been refined, that this could actually morph into almost like a convolutional neural net type situation, where you try to find patches of tokens that kind of make sense to predict together, and then you go sort of patch by patch through the whole token space when you do inference. Something like that. I think this is where, in my opinion, this is going, and the same in the same realm, like convolutional neural nets, there's certain things that they're really, really good at, in particular images, because you have this symmetry in the real world. Symmetry meaning that if I look at a chessboard, right, there's a lot of symmetry in the chessboard. I don't have to predict every token. I don't have to compute the whole chessboard. I can, in principle, just compute two squares, the white and the black, and then predict everything else in one shot. This is not even on podcast. It's July 10, 2024. This is Krim-Delco. For the day, the fund is up 4.6%. The market is up 10 basis points. For the year, we are up 29.2%. The market is up 16.8%. We're outperforming by 12.4%. Now, before we go into the discussion, just a few words about the market. We've done really well recently because of Tesla. Tesla has had a massive run since the positive news on deliveries for Q2. I think there's a lot of catch-up to do here, a little bit of meme stock situation also. Fundamentally, the way we think about these things at Orange Capital Partners is always the same. We focus on what doesn't change and don't let ourselves be carried away by uncertainty. And what doesn't change is that as long as Tesla delivers better cars for less money, as long as Tesla can reduce the dollars per mile, as long as Tesla can increase quality, increase convenience, either through the car or, of course, through FSD, and drive down dollars per mile, as long as that is the case, they will be a winner. They will gain market share, and they will gain share in the transportation and decarbonization markets. This is roughly our view on Tesla. And again, the stock price in the short run is not of our concern. We are managing our leverage to make sure that we don't get hurt, or also that we don't get ahead of ourselves whenever we do well, like recently. Elon Musk said, he said that XAI is going to build the next large compute cluster themselves. They're not going to use Oracle, and the reason they're not going to do that is because they need to stay on top of things. They need to stay ahead of the game. They need to rapidly iterate, and you have to be at the steering wheel. Those are his own words. Now, for us, this is very good news because we want Tesla and, or in this case, XAI, but it's of course related to Tesla. We want Tesla to remain vertically integrated where it matters, and understanding training and compute is increasingly going to become the business of Tesla, because FSD and humanoid robots will become the main drivers of the valuation of the company. So having said that, there's, by the way, okay, third thing, there's a bit of a rumor that Travis Kalanick will run the robotaxi business. Now, I personally, I'm always very, I don't like these kinds of things, just simply because I think bringing somebody from the bench that can execute that would be much more useful than bringing somebody who's built a business that, in my opinion, really isn't a real business. So I'm not too bullish on that, but of course the market would maybe interpret this as a sign of confidence by Travis. But then honestly, what is Travis really risking here? He's got no job. He's a nobody right now, and doing this for Tesla would be a much big high profile job for him. Now, I think the only thing that I like about it is he's a cutthroat, no-nonsense type businessman. So maybe as an addition to the management team, it could be useful, because that's what Tesla needs. Wartime managers right now, or actually always, but definitely right now. And he's certainly a wartime manager. So now let's talk about the paper, okay? Came out of Meta, multi-token prediction. Why is that a good thing? Well, think about it. Like, we have next token prediction and we have multi-token prediction. Why don't we just predict a couple of tokens ahead? So when we have the sentence, I am swimming in the ocean, why predict just I am swimming? Why not just do the whole thing, right? Well, why not? Because it's probably more difficult to train. It's more expensive to train. It's maybe prone to more mistakes. Well, not if you train it with the loss function optimized for end token prediction. This all comes down to the training, right? If the model is optimized for multi-token prediction, then it will also become very good at multi-token prediction. If it's optimized for next token prediction, it will become very good at next token prediction. So the question then is, what do we choose? What's the N here? How many tokens ahead do we want to predict? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on the size of the parameters, depends on the tasks. As this paper has shown, papers in the show notes, by the way, it depends on, let's say, if you do inference, if you do induction, if you do reasoning, algorithmic reasoning. So things like that might improve your performance. I personally conjecture that also robotics could be actually a very interesting application of this. And that leads me to the second point that I want to discuss here, which is, in general, when we question these new paradigms, right? Multi-token versus single-token prediction, we really change the whole architecture of the model. And by doing that, I think it helps us really understand what these models are all about, right? What does next token prediction mean? Well, fundamentally, what it means is that the loss function, which you're minimizing in the training sequence, is optimized for next token prediction. So that's where it becomes really good at. You know, if you're a goalkeeper in football and you optimize short range one-on-one saves versus maybe long, high corner type shots where you have to literally fly across the goal line to save. If you optimize for one versus the other, you're going to become really good at one versus the other. And in this case, it's the same thing, right? You become really good at next token prediction. But what if we train the model to become very good at multi-token prediction? And then what does multi-token actually mean? And how many parameters do we need for that? Do we need more? The answer is yes, 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 and yes. And there's an optimization problem here. There's a Pareto optimality. So this paper is kicking off, in my opinion, a whole slew of new research. PhDs will be written about this. And that's what's great about it. And as much as I have my political issues with Jan LeCun and his meta people there, from a scientific perspective, they are still delivering. Now, the third thing I wanted to mention is now this impact on robotics. I mentioned it in the prelude. The idea is the following, right? If you have multi-token prediction as the model is optimizing for multi-token prediction, you should be able to, and this is now according to the paper, there's two things that you should be really getting better at. One is induction. Induction is, okay, I see a certain pattern, now I'm expecting the next few patterns. So if my pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, then I should be getting really good at figuring out that there's a couple of numbers and then a couple of letters coming. But then the second thing, which is important, I also become very good at so-called choice. I forgot the exact word. I think choice parameters or something like that, which is, where is the transition? Where is really the hard part of the prediction here, which is when it goes from numbers to letters. Or in robotics, if I drive on a road and I am in the middle of the lane, then the next tokens are easy to predict, and we're kind of not very interesting. But what becomes really interesting is when I get close to the line and I can't cross that line. That's where the interesting token prediction business starts. And I think with having more efficient training based on multi-token prediction, we could also reduce, in particular, we could use the inference time, which is, of course, key. We've spoken about this several times also, reducing inference time, because now you have in training, you're optimizing for multi-token prediction, which will then allow you to more efficiently predict a couple of tokens ahead, so you have to do less runs. Or another way to think about this is, like I said in the prelude, think of this like a sort of a transformer application to convolutional neural nets. Or in simple terms, we're trying to exploit symmetries, right? What is induction really? Induction is understanding a symmetry just means, okay, if I have a blue sky on the right side of an image, and it spans across the whole image, then that's a symmetry. Like all these pixels are the same. I don't need to spend computation and memory time to predict all the pixels that are blue. All I need to focus is on sort of choice parameters where it changes. This is the beginning of computer vision. It has always been edge detection, or detect when something changes. And multi-token prediction, in my opinion, is just a fancy word or a transformer kind of world word for the same thing, right? If we want to do induction, and what we're really trying to do is predict those choice parameters when something changes. So when we have a blue sky that is interrupted by the sun, those pixels, when they change, that's what we really want to try to predict. And multi-token prediction helps us do that because we're spanning across a wider range of possibilities. So to summarize, this multi-token prediction paper that came out by Meta, in my opinion, is a continuation of what Jan LeCun has been working on for most of his career, which is trying to exploit symmetries in convolutional neural nets. It's just called multi-token prediction now. It has a lot of good applications, in particular, of course, wherever there's a lot of symmetry. And computer vision, actually, and robotics, in my opinion, are areas where there is a lot of symmetry to be exploited, and therefore dimensionality reduction is possible, and we have a massive opportunity to increase solution per dollar, or in other words, get a lot more bang for the buck when we do inference. And the key is that we train the models with a loss function that takes into account the fact that it's going to predict multiple tokens. Thank you.